Good afternoon. I'm Mark Allen with Gaper.io, and I'm here today with Mathieu Aguesse, CEO of the Schoolab. Good afternoon, Mathieu.
Good afternoon. Very happy to be with you.
Thank you. How's your day going so far?
It's going okay. I mean, working from home, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So can you share a brief background of yourself and your work experiences?
Of course. So as you may have noticed, I'm actually a French entrepreneur. I've studied engineer and design back in the days. And then my background has been kind of a replication of cycles going from studying, then, trying, starting my own venture and then scaling with bigger companies and then starting this cycle again. So now it's kind of my third cycle. So I've already created 2 companies, and I feel like this one is probably the good one.
Great. Well, I wish this one well. So what has been your experience with remote employment, both as a remote employee and a remote employer?
So I believe, funny enough, we have always been also a very physical company, if I could say, believing in the power of spaces. And the value of mixing people in the same place and the power of serendipity and that kind of thing. So we really believe in what a space should bring to a company, but at the same time we've been allowing remote work from the very first day, and I think it's deeply embedded in our culture. It's not like one day we decided that we're going to offer our employees the ability to work remotely, but it was the right from the beginning. And I think it's actually a fantastic way to empower your employee to, get them more responsible of their own work. And so it has been developed in a very organic way for, again, my employees and myself as well. And we think people should know when they need to work remote, and it should be a tool, a weapon for them, more than an assignment or just, something that's nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
So it has been, done very organically from the beginning, and I think it's just, it's a company made by entrepreneurs. So I think it's also the value we want to transmit to our employees, and therefore, remote work is part of that empowerment to help them be responsible of what they're doing.
Okay. And what's been your experience and your takeaway from this experience?
Well, I guess we have way more takeaways the past weeks that we had for years,
Yeah.
because it has been interesting timing. So I think one key thing that we've learned early on is that working remotely is definitely a different rules. One of them is what we call work together but separately, which means when you're in the same physical room, then when you're doing a brainstorming or kind of a creative session, then it's easy to kind of reflect on each other ideas live. Whereas when you're remote, it's just a very different pace, and so it's important to figure this out and to manage time for everyone to work and to brainstorm on their own, and then share instead of doing everything live. I think there's one thing around the pace. Another interesting thing is that when you're remote, there is no what I call backstages. So either the message go through the communication channel, or it would never go through. And so it's very important to make sure you have the right communication channel, the right tools, the right rituals, and also to make it simple. If you start having too many different channels, then the message would probably be lost somewhere. So I feel like there is kind of a Darwinism, if I could say, in terms of finding the right tools, the right rituals to make it work. And then I also think as a manager, there is a kind of a new empathy that you need to develop, new ways to gain each other trust, because you can't perceive the nonverbal language, and you can't see how people are looking like in their daily jobs. So it's also important to kind of be able to create this kind of new trust, this ability for everyone to speak out loud, speak about their emotions, what they're living, what they're feeling. To be more empathic, using those new different digital setup.
Very good. And what do you think is the future of remote employment, and what do you think needs to be done differently to make it more effective?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's obviously going to be a before and after COVID in terms of people understanding that they can really use remote as an entire part of their job. Still, what I'm pretty convinced is that actually we should be careful not trying to replicate or to translate physical behaviors digitally. and really understand that remote work and a digital world is just different rules. Again, a different setup. And I usually take the example of what happened, for instance, in the retail industry years ago, when brick and mortar retailers tried to put their store online, basically replicating the exact same way of presenting stuff and so on, whereas the pure players such as Amazon and others just started from scratch something that was digital by essence.
Hmm.
And I think that's one thing we're trying to do, for instance, in the education field, is trying not to replicate the exact commonalities, the exact same thing that we've been doing physically on a website, but actually understanding that it's just different tools that we have, a different, again, behaviors, different pace, and so I think that's where we should go. Really understanding that there's going to be a digital life, a digital work, and we should really be prepared to use it as it comes.
Great. Well, and that's a great segue to my next question, which is, what is the story behind the Schoolab, and what's the journey been like?
Sure. So we've been in business for 15 years, starting in Paris, France, and then expanding globally. We're now on 3 continents. And so basically, our mission is to bridge the gap between 3 different worlds: universities, the startup world, and corporate world. And we believe that the only way to make innovation really successful on a kind of a global scale and an ecosystemic way is by making these people work together, mixing them. So basically, we're running training and project acceleration programs. For instance, we have a very strong relationship and a very strong partnership with UC Berkeley here in the Bay Area. So we're giving class there and having some students working with big industries such as Samsung or Nestle and many others, and also a bunch of startups. And the last component of this activity is actually what I mentioned earlier, is the space itself, where we create really unique and creative space to help people mix, interact together, and create very fruitful relationship with each other.
Interesting. So just you bring the 3 of those entities together through your product?
Absolutely. So our programs and space, absolutely. That's what we're doing, with always the objective, the aim to create new product, new services, and kind of, if I could say, make the world a better place.
Well, that's always a good thing. And how did you incorporate the idea of remote at your company? I mean, did you do it from day one, 15 years ago, or did it just kind of evolve?
Yeah, I mean, I think 15 years ago, remote work was a totally different
Hmm.
thing. Yeah, obviously, but I believe, like, again, being a company made by entrepreneurs and with this very strong entrepreneur culture, we really think people are able to use their own judgment to know if they should work from the office or work from home. And I think we also always try to balance personal and professional life, and so we've seen, for instance, people that were just becoming father or mother that need to spend more time home, and we make sure that everything infrastructure was ready to support that. And also, I think another we also reverse a bit the problem, saying you can work remotely, but you can also work from our office space. And we
Hmm.
want to make sure that if you're working from home, it's the better thing that you need right now. But also, when you come inside the office space, that you have something to bring. So that we're also making sure our office space is really, a very vibrant and creative space where the people that are sitting here want to be there and have something to bring. So it's also kind of, rethinking the value of a space of itself by saying it's not a place where you have to be because there is no other place to be, but it's the place where you want to be and where something can happen.
It's a very interesting way to look at it, but you're right. And I think there's a fair number of companies that have embraced that. And you're seeing more and more of it, especially in the tech startup world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with the ongoing pandemic, and we still have another month of this at least, it's forced companies to go remote. Has this caused any major roadblocks or challenges for you?
Yeah, obviously. Maybe one that I can relate is what happened to us with UC Berkeley, for instance, with the 2 classes that we're teaching there. It obviously has become a major shift, not to be physically together when you want to teach, and I think that's something that thousands of teachers are also facing all over the world. And I think what's interesting there is that the students are actually the most well prepared, to this shift. They're, you know, extremely responsive when it comes to introducing a new technology. They're extremely agile. And so it's interesting to see also how we should, you know, be prepared and be agile to offer new contents, offer new formats, to be on top of things. And I think one key challenge is to how you actually, you know, improve continuously your format and what you're doing without gathering some feedback, without seeing people. So it's also, you know, an important challenge is that, you know, you're building something new, and at the same time, you don't have that much feedback as usual. Another thing is how you maintain a certain level of creativity in the teams, while at the same time requiring from them kind of a military organization, because working remote, you know, requires to be extremely well organized, to have things well scheduled and so on. But still, you want people to be creative. And also, I think the last thing is how you pass emotion, how you create stimulation while being behind the screen, and knowing that the students have, you know, plenty of other temptations other than them listening to us. So those are kind of the main challenge I've been facing so far. But at the same time, again, knowing that we're lucky enough to have college students that are extremely well prepared and agile to go through it.
Yeah, very good. So there are companies like Gaper that help develop, build, and scale products, especially for startups. How important do you think setups like this will be in the future, where startups need to hire mainly quality people? I think that's the biggest challenge, and in a hurry.
Absolutely, and I think it's also a two-side challenge. Like, company would need talent and very, you know, well-skilled people, and at the same time we can see the unemployment rate that is just, you know, increasing. So I think solutions such as Gaper that are helping companies, you know, really facing their new issues and bring flexibility to them, and help founders to be focused on their core work, and at the same time that offer new channels for people to, you know, get a job, being hired, are just exactly what we would need in a close future. Those are usually, I think, the companies that are really successful and then find all their purpose after crisis. Because again, we need flexibility, we need talent at the right time, and we also need more job opportunities. So I really believe that the kind of service that Gaffer is providing has a, you know, a lot of bright days behind.
Yeah, well, thank
In
you.
front of it.
Yeah, thanks. And thank you very much for your time today, Matthew. This has been great. I wish you well. Hopefully, maybe we'll meet after this situation is all over.
Hopefully. Thank you so much for thinking about us, and we'd love to stay in touch.
Thanks. Have a great day.